Shalom. This is part two to our biblical belief, the assembly that is here in Madisonville. We just simply name it Beit Yisrael or House of Israel. And we wanted to give some further information on our beliefs so that there's not so much uncomfortableness when it comes to our assembly. We hear people saying in town, "Hey, you go to Yoshiyah or Strawber Logan's Boys Church," and we don't call ourselves a church. We call ourselves an assembly, and I'll speak about that in a second. But picking back up from part one, I was talking about the laws. Many people say to us, "Hey, you can't keep the law." Well, the law is the commandments of the Most High. He tells us what to do and what not to do, and He gives us the consequences of what we do. You see, if the United States can give us a law that says you must stop at all stop signs, and if you don't stop at a stop sign, and we catch you rolling through that stop sign, there is a consequence. There is a penalty for you disregarding that stop sign. See, there is a law that has been created, and that law actually brings order. If everyone disobeyed the law of the stop sign, there would be total chaos. We wouldn't make it home. We'd all be running into each other. But the stop sign, though many of us hate it because we have to come to a stop, and many of us don't stop, what we do is we go on through it. But that law brings order. It allows each of us to get home safely. And that's what the Most High's commandments, His laws, His statutes do. It helps us to get into the kingdom. It teaches us to live righteously. Regarding the law again, like I said, you had the different breakdown of the law. You had the moral law, you had the ceremonial law, you had the sacrificial law, you had the judgments, you had the dietary law, and the only two laws that are we no longer do today are the sacrifices because there is no temple, there are no priests. We have a high priest for us today where there is no need for blood to be slaughtered, and also the judgments. Again, Yahshua was nailed to the stake. We no longer have to receive that penalty, that judgment, if we have our belief in Him. And when we have belief in Him, we will obey the commandments because that's how grateful that we are. Many people will talk to us about grace, and I like to put it like this. When we deal with grace, I hear people say, "Oh, I'm saved by grace." Well, there's a couple of scriptures that tell us in the book of Matthew and the book of Revelations, and we will talk about that definitely, that he who endureth to the end shall be saved. And it's telling you right there, you have to endure in order to say that I'm saved. Because I can go out here, cheat on my wife, kill somebody, and get hit by a car. And did I live like someone who was supposedly saved? So I have to endure unto the end, and then we will receive salvation. That's when salvation comes, is when we endure to the end. Um, but there are a lot of different things that people have and take issue with us about in our beliefs. We do believe that we are to keep the Most High's commandments. We do meet on the seventh day. I tell people all the time, I will go back to meeting on the first day when someone can give me a scripture that shows me that we are to meet on the first day. I understand the scripture that is given to us talking about how they were on the first day they were gathered together, but you have to realize from a Hebraic standpoint, when the sun went down and the Sabbath was over, the day began in the evening. And so when the Sabbath is over, then the new day comes in and they're together and they're eating together. That was the first day. But I understand from a Western mindset, we think that they're talking about early Sunday morning, but that is not the case when you understand Hebraically what the scripture is talking about. So that's a thing. We meet on the Sabbath, and that appears to be an issue to some people. But that's why we meet on the Sabbath, because we have not found any scripture that gives us permission to meet on Sunday as a service. Not only that, the Romans used to worship, uh, well, they still worship Greek deities, and they were into sun worship heavily. So the Roman Catholic Church is the one who decided to change the day. Until that time, all the apostles, all the believers, they met on the Sabbath. They met on the seventh day. So I'm open to change, but it has to be scriptural. So you bring me a scripture showing me that we are to meet on Sunday, the day of the sun, then I will do that. But I can tell you for sure, you're not going to find that scripture. It was the Catholic Church. If you go Google who changed, or you can type in the Catholic Church changed the Sabbath to Sunday, and you will find the correct information. It started with them. They changed the Sabbath, the seventh day, to the first day. And ever since then, all of the daughters of the Catholic Church, those churches that broke away from the Catholic Church, they still do the same thing today. They meet on Sundays. So we choose to go back and Hebraically understand the scriptures and keep the scriptures as Yeshua kept them and as Yah told us to keep them. That's just what we do. And I'm sorry many take offense at that, but we're going to do what the scripture says, and that's why we really receive a lot of hardship here, being called a cult or those things. We just haven't found the information historically or the information in the scripture that tells us to do otherwise. You will see that we do not wear a cross. Many people don't have the understanding of the cross and it symbolizes. It is a Roman thing. The T represents Tammuz, and all of that is tied into paganism. It was actually, Peter calls it a tree or a stake. The proper translation is being impaled on a tree or a stake, not a cross. That was not the original words. And so when we deal with a Eastern book that has been translated into a Western book, I hear people say all the time, "Oh, you gotta believe what the King James says." And hey, it's the scripture. I agree with the scripture, but there was an agenda also in the translation to make us say things that we should not say. Like the Most High says in Deuteronomy, not to let any other mighty ones come off the lip of your mouth. And I'm going to say these names, but simply for a teaching purpose. The translation, for example, of some of the words that are in the script in the scripture that has been translated into King James, they use the word grace. Well, that was a Roman deity. It was a goddess. They used the word mercy. That was a Roman goddess, mercy. A lot of different words that was used in paganism that has us calling on those names. So we tend to try to stay away from some of those things once we learn it. Like we know that for another word for grace, there's compassion. So we choose to do those things, and we don't try to do that to be a problem. We just want to serve the Most High with all of our heart, with all of our soul, with all of our mind, and with all of our strength. So I know that, like I said, it's a little different here in Madisonville. We're used to the Baptist, the Methodist churches, all the different churches who are here, and that's what we grew up seeing all of our life. And I think because there is another assembly that is here in Madisonville, people don't quite know how to react to that. People don't talk to me about that Yoshiyah, those things like that. But I wish that people would have I wish that people were man enough to come and ask us or ask me what we believe. And I'll be glad to tell you what we believe. I'll pull the scripture out with it and show you why I believe it. I don't believe something just because I think that it sounds good. I don't believe something because my mother and father did it, or my grandmother and grandfather did it, or whoever. I don't do it because of that. I do it because of what the word says, because the word is what's going to get me into the kingdom. Now, many people also wonder why I call myself by the name of Yoshiyah ben Israel. And I will do a study on this. I will do a video on this. I do believe that we, the African Americans here in the United States, and I'm not saying all of them whatsoever, but most and many of the African Americans here in the United States are a part of the tribes of Israel. You see, the Bible tells us you're looking at a people who had no history, who had no hope, and we have been a people who have been assimilated into a culture, and now we've claimed this culture as our own. But when you go back and read and study about the children of Israel, you will find out that they were sent into captivity. Deuteronomy chapter 28, and I've got to read that, and I know some of you have heard me talking about it. Um, there is a sign, an indicator on the children of Israel. I'm going to give you a couple. Deuteronomy chapter 28. Um, it says in chapter 28, verse 37, thus you shall become an astonishment, a proverb, a mockery among all the peoples which the Most High drives you. Israel disobeyed, so the Most High said, I'm going to send you out. I'm going to send you far away into all the nations of the earth. And he says, while you're there, you're going to be known as a mockery, a proverb. Remember the black face? How about the proverb? A byword. How about the byword? Black, Negro. You know the other N word. I'm just not going to say it on video. We've been called a number of different. Now we're called African American. We've had 5 names so far, and we're known as a byword. We're called by 2 continents, African Americans. When the Chinese come over, they're called Chinese. Germans come over, they're called German. But we're called African American. That's because we don't have a history. We don't have that. But I'll give you one of the last things. He says in verse 68 in chapter 28, he says, and Yah shall bring you back into Egypt, or in actually you'll take Egypt with you, slavery, in ships, by way in which I said to you again, you are never to see it again, and there you shall be sold to your enemies as male and female slaves, but no one to buy. That's really deep right there in and of itself. We are the only nation of people who have ever been taken into slavery by way of ships. The Most High told us, our forefathers, if you obey me, you will stay in the land, you will have good and plenty. If you disobey me, I'm going to send you out and I'm going to scatter you around the world. If you look at us, we've been to the east. In the Arab countries, they took us as slaves first, and then we were brought to the west by the Europeans. In every country, we have been taken into slavery. And if you notice that today you're hearing about the Limba tribe, look them up. Tribe in Africa, they have the Levitical priesthood DNA. Look at the Ethiopian Jews. You know, they were from King Solomon. There are a lot. There's so much history about us as a people being the children of Yah, and that's why we're mistreated as a people today. Many will say, "Oh, you have what you want," but we are mistreated today. So I just wanted to give you just a small rundown, and I'll do a study on these things to kind of help you understand a little bit more about what we believe. But I really appreciate you listening. I hope no one felt like they were attacked. I didn't try to be hostile towards anybody. But we just want you to understand who we are. We love the Most High. We understand that we have sinned, and the blood of the Messiah covers us. And we understand that. And we also understand who we are as a people. We realize that we are the children of Israel, and we realize that the Most High will come back to claim the children of Israel. And as in Romans chapter 11 teaches, and those who graft themselves into Israel. That's another teaching. We're going to talk about those things, but I just really wanted you to understand who we are. Don't be nervous about meeting with us. We read and believe in the same Bible that you do, and you're more than welcome to come and worship with us and learn something. So I say shalom to those who will accept it.